next to you and tell them who you believe is the wisest person who ever lived. Go ahead. Okay, how did we do? Wisest person who ever lived? Solomon? Okay. Jesus? See, we're in church. I can tell. Okay, if you weren't in church, what would you say? The wisest person who ever lived? Einstein. Mark Twain, my dad. What's that? Da Vinci. What was that? Galileo? Plato. Sorry. I think the wisest person who ever lived was my mom. I mean, seriously, I do. I think that partly because I had this aversion in particularly junior high and high school to literature. Especially the literature that they give you to read in classes. These books, here's maybe a sample of these books. You probably recognize some of these from high school reading. There's Fahrenheit 451 and Jaws and Anne Frank and Catch-22, Animal Farm, Canterbury Tale. I mean, all kinds of these books that we were on the reading list in junior high and high school that we had to read. I had some barrier or block in my mind against understanding what on earth these books were trying to communicate. And so I struggled in a big way in English classes, especially in high school. So since I was struggling and I had assignments to complete, who did I turn to? Mom. I turned to Mom. Now, something you need to understand about my mom is my mom's college degree was in math. She was a math major. She was very logically minded. She understood math. She understood numbers. And at the same time, she was extremely relational and caring. And so she had kind of this balance. One of my mom's skills, even despite her major and her personality, she understood all that literature. And so when I didn't know it, I turned to my mom. And so when I had these assignments, I'd say, Mom, I don't understand this. And she would point me in the right direction. She would help me understand what those questions were all about that I did not understand. She'd help me write those papers that I didn't even know how to begin to write. And the whole time, as she was helping me, what was I doing? I was crying. Because I had no idea, and I felt like I'm supposed to measure up to these assignments and these books, and I'm supposed to understand what I'm supposed to do, and I had no idea. And most of the time, my mom was helping me, and I was crying. There was this thought in the back of my mind over and over, and it was, how is my mom so wise? Are there times when you need to be wise, and you wish you were more wise than you are? I hope the answer is yes, because it's sure yes for me. I mean, you're in that conversation with somebody and you think, how do I respond? I need to be wise. You know, or you're looking forward or anticipating that whatever's going to happen today or tomorrow or sometime soon, and you think, I don't know where to go. I don't know how to do it. I need to be wise. Or you got a decision to make, and you don't know exactly what to decide, and you're weighing the options, and it's not clear. We need to be wise. I mean, we all need wisdom. And so where do we get it? And where does it come from? See, I think God has some great responses to those questions. Questions like, who in the Bible was wise, and what does God have to teach us about wisdom? Well, of course, when we think about wisdom, the first person in the Bible that comes up is Solomon, because Solomon has this reputation and has earned this incredible reputation of being the wisest person who ever lived. And some of the descriptions in the Bible of Solomon's wisdom and the success that came from his wisdom are almost unbelievable because they're so grand. The Bible describes that Solomon's knowledge was as vast as the sands of the seashore. That Solomon's wisdom exceeded that of the wisest people in the East and in Egypt. That Solomon's wisdom was beyond anyone. It says that Solomon was wiser. Solomon's wisdom was something that everyone knew about. It says that Solomon wrote 3,000 proverbs and 1,005 songs. that he brought peace to a larger area than ever had peace before. The Bible says that he had 1,000 horses, which is a sign of his success, that he could speak authoritatively about botany and zoology. And the Bible says he was internationally recognized as an authority. How did Solomon get all that wisdom? I mean, where did it come from, and how did he get it? Not just the wisdom that brought him all the horses and let him write Proverbs, but the wisdom that led him through life. Well, Solomon's wisdom, as the children just heard, began with a dream. And the dream came at a certain place. That's an important place. And here's how it worked. Solomon went to a city. Before the dream, he went to a city. And it was a certain city that was like the center of the religious worship of his day. So it's like us going to, if we had one, which we don't, but if we had like a mother church or a central church or a national church or some place that everybody looked at and said, if I want to express my faith, if I want to worship God, I'm going to go there. And it was the one place. They had that. And so Solomon went to that place in his day. And he went there to worship God. It was an important place that everybody knew about, and it was a place that he knew when you go there, you are to worship. And for Solomon, this wasn't just like an obligation or a responsibility or a religious exercise that he walked through. For Solomon, this was a spiritual journey for him, kind of like going on a retreat. He was going there to really express his faith. Because at this point in Solomon's life, he was in a challenging situation. He had just become the king. And imagine being the king after David. Because David was like the best king ever. I mean, imagine succeeding David. You'd be like, how can I fill his shoes? How can I possibly be what my father David was? And Solomon's got this build-up. He's got this expectation of himself. And he's king. And he's supposed to be in charge. And so he's beginning this and he's thinking, how do I measure up? And this is his frame of mind as he's walking to this city to worship God. So when Solomon goes to this place, the way that they worshiped isn't necessarily the same way that we would. If somebody in our day says they're going to worship, it's not the same as when Solomon says, I'm going to worship. Because when we say worship, we would think, I'm going on a retreat to worship. I'm going to go pray. I'm going to go seek some wise counsel from somebody. I'm going to read the Bible. I'm going to sing. I'm going to walk and have time alone. The way they worshipped is they sacrificed things. And it was a way of saying, God, I'm giving you the best of my stuff because I know that everything is yours. So I'm submitting myself to you. So Solomon, when he was going to do sacrifices, he was out sacrificing pretty much everyone. And the Bible says that he sacrificed 1,000 sacrifices. And that's a lot of sacrifices. So he was going, expressing all of himself, showing all of where he's at, saying, God, I need you, and I don't know where I am, and I need something. So when Solomon is there, in this central church, worshiping God, he has a dream while he's there. And in the dream, God approaches Solomon, and God says, ask, and I will give it to you. He's offering to give Solomon anything he wants or asks or needs. And in the dream, Solomon responds at first with this response of, I'm in an overwhelming place. You have blessed my family. You have blessed me. I can't believe I'm sitting on the throne. I'm in charge of your people. How am I possibly going to do this? I mean, that's his frame of mind even in the dream, which is the same as his life. I mean, he's kind of dreaming his life. And what if God came to me? And this is his dream. Well, Solomon recognizes that he's been blessed. Solomon recognizes that God has been good. And he recognizes where he's at in his situation. And it's one of those times in this place of worship where he's like in God's presence. If he could ever be more in God's presence, it was here. And he's realizing how blessed he is and how much God has given him and how much he needs God. And at that point, he responds to God, offering to give him anything he asks for. And so famously, Solomon responds, give me an understanding heart so that I can govern your people well and know the difference between right and wrong. For who by himself is able to govern this great people of yours?" And God responds that God will give him wisdom. And the dream ends. So the dream is about his life. I mean, the dream captures where he's at. And have you ever had that happen? You're going through something and you just dream that thing. And somehow dreams, sometimes, God works through them to give us clarity. And it seems that God worked through a dream to give Solomon clarity about if you're ever going to succeed at this big task that you're in the middle of, this is how it's going to look. And Solomon, in that dream, probably finds the most important thing ever about wisdom. He finds out where it comes from. Because where is Solomon when he has the dream? He's in that special place and he's doing what? He's worshiping. He is, if ever before, he is in God's presence. And who does Solomon ask for wisdom? He asks God. And who gives Solomon wisdom? God. Solomon discovers that if wisdom is found anywhere, wisdom is found with God. Wisdom comes from God. We remember Proverbs, and we remember verses from Proverbs that might be the most famous verses ever from Proverbs. And I think for good reason they're famous verses, because they say, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take." Those are the verses that are on the clips that mothers have this morning. And I love what comes right after that. This verse says, "Don't be impressed with your own wisdom. Instead, fear the Lord and turn away from evil." So if we put all that together, if we summarize all that, we could say, it says, trust God, don't depend on me, seek the Lord's will, don't be impressed by me, fear God. That's an interesting rhythm, isn't it? Trust God, it's not about me. Seek God, don't be impressed with me, fear God. It's this back and forth. It's this, don't forget, wisdom comes from God. He's the one we're going to find it. No, don't be impressed with me because we're always impressed with ourselves. Oh, but it's always found in God. No, don't come back to yourself. It's this back and forth because that's who we are. That's how we live. We get impressed with us. We think wisdom comes from us, but it doesn't. God says, no, wisdom is found in God. Another way maybe of saying this is if we become satisfied with the wisdom we can find by ourselves, we're missing the wisdom that God has set us up to find. But if we start with asking God for wisdom, then we're on the right track to finding the wisdom that God has set us up to find. Let's meet a couple, and this is Michael and Sharon Nicholson. Anybody ever met Michael and Sharon? Anybody ever heard of Michael and Sharon Nicholson? Good. They live in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is not far from where the Bounds will be moving in a little while. Mr. Nicholson is 75 years old. He is a student. He has had a few jobs here and there, but he retired a long time ago so that he could become a student. In fact, he's been a student for 55 years. His wife is actually a pretty good student as well. She's earned a number of degrees herself. But this is all quite a surprise given the fact that Mr. Nicholson's father dropped out of school when he was in the 3rd grade, and his mother only finished high school. So he didn't have a great reputation of education, but he has become a lifelong student. Now, Mr. Nicholson, in his study, he sits with this thing. That would be a typewriter. That's what he uses to write all of his papers for all of his assignments. He still uses that, and his wife helps him quite a lot. But the reason that it's really worth us meeting Mr. and Mrs. Nicholson is that he has quite a bit of education behind them. In fact, both of them do. Mrs. Nicholson has earned 7 degrees, and Mr. Nicholson has earned 30 college degrees. He has earned 1 bachelor's degree, 2 associate's degrees, 23 master's degrees, 3 specialist degrees, and 1 doctorate degree. He has earned them all. None are honorary given degrees. He has truly earned them all, and he's been to 28 of his 30 graduations. He loves learning. And he holds the distinction of being the most well-educated person in the world. Now, does this make Mr. Nicholson the wisest person in the world? Is it helpful to being the wisest person in the world? Absolutely, because the way the Bible talks about wisdom is it says, go get it. Push, seek, find, chase after it. Do everything we can with all of ourselves to find wisdom. Don't let it out of your grasp. Whenever you see it, go after it. And the way the Bible talks specifically about wisdom and what it is it says that wisdom is made up of three things. The Bible describes that wisdom is made up of information that's in our minds, and understanding that happens in our minds and our hearts, and then through work with our hands and our bodies. So wisdom is this combination. It's information that we learn and we absorb and we discover. It's understanding that where we filter that information, somehow in our minds and hearts we might describe. But then it's not yet wisdom unless we do something with it. Unless we decide things with it. Unless we work with it. Unless we get active with it. I mean, that's a package of wisdom. We're all these things together for wisdom. Because if we just learn, that's not enough. But if we understand things, that's even still, according to the way the Bible talks about wisdom, not enough. And if we just do things, that alone isn't enough. It's this mixture of all these things where we learn and we understand and we do, and somehow all that together, that's wisdom. And I think Proverbs reminds us, and Solomon's dream and experience calls us, and other places in the Bible show us that wisdom is something that comes from God, and it's something we have to seek after, but ultimately it does come from God. So if it does come from God, but we're supposed to go after it, how do we get it? Well, if you want something, you got to ask for it. And over in the Bible, we see places where people ask and God gives. So if we want wisdom, we must ask God for wisdom. I mean, if we're well prepared for something that we're going into, we can still ask God for wisdom. If we don't have a clue what to do and we're so confused, which we've all been there, we can still ask God for wisdom. If we're prepared for a meeting and we're set to go and we know what's going to happen, we can still ask God for wisdom. If we're in the middle of a relationship and we don't know where to go with it, we ask God for wisdom. If we don't know what the future holds, we can ask God for wisdom. I mean, the book of James says it straight away. If you need wisdom, ask our generous God and He will give it to you. If we want wisdom, simply ask. If there's ever something that I think I've discovered as we've walked through the Bible so far, and this trying to get this big picture of what the Bible is, it's that God wants a relationship with us. God wants us to live in this relationship, and God makes ways for us to be in that relationship. It's like God wants us to be involved with God, but God wants to be invited into everything that we're doing. He wants us to invite Him. And when we ask God for wisdom, it's like we're inviting God into what's going on. You know, God, I don't understand this, or God, I'm confused, or God, I think I know, but maybe I don't know. Would you please give me wisdom here? Because I need it. That's a way, asking God for wisdom, it's a way of keeping our relationship with God going. It's a way of doing the one thing that God wants, which is sustaining and keeping going a relationship with Him. So trust God. And don't follow your own understanding. And seek God. And don't be impressed, no matter how brilliant any of us might be. And fear God. And wisdom will come. Let's pray.